After an awful 4-10 year in 1975, the 1976 Atlanta Falcons were looking to turn things around, and their defense seemed to do so. They had 44 sacks and 38 total turnovers. They were looking like contenders.
They weren't contenders. They were 4-10 again.
Today, we're going to cover why the Atlanta Falcons were unsuccessful in the 1976 season, even though their defense put up good numbers.
All right, so when you look at their defensive stats, the only real true stats that were impressive were their turnovers and sacks. They put up 18 interceptions, 20 fumble recoveries, and 44 sacks, which is all really good, actually. Really good. You don't see that much often, nowadays at least. But when you look at their yards allowed, they allowed 4,578 yards. 2,001 of those being from passing and 2,577 being from rushing. They allowed 312 points, also pretty high, very high. Passing, 14 of those were touchdowns, and then 22 of the touchdowns came from the rushing game. They only did allow a 54 completion rate on offense, though, or from their you know what I'm saying, which is, it's not awful at all. I'll let Mason take over the offense though, and how they put up there.
So their total offense, they put up 3,103 yards. Awful. They only put up 172 points in the entire season in 14 games.
Horrible.
Also awful. They committed 41 turnovers.
Even worse.
Only 20 touchdowns. All right, that's almost a 2-to-1, or that is over a 2-to-1 ratio. All right. Passing yards, they only had 1,414 passing yards on the season, with 10 touchdowns in the air, to 24 interceptions.
Horrible.
And an average of a 44% completion percentage. Man. And rushing, they put up 1,689 yards total as a team. Not good. And 10 total touchdowns. That's just awful.
They were a rough team. And then you look at their team, and usually when you're trying to do good, you have one starting quarterback for the year. This team had 3.
Mason, all right, I'll just outline each of their records.
I'll let Mason go over this.
So we got to start off with their number 1 overall pick from the year before, all right, which was Steve Bartkowski. All right, he went with a 1-4 record, 47.5% completion percentage, and 677 yards, 2-to-9 touchdown interception ratio. He was awful. So what did they do? They fired their head coach. And then they benched Steve Bartkowski because he was awful. And then Scott Hunter took his place. He ended up having a 2-4 record, 46.4% completion percentage, 633 yards, and a 5-4 TD interception ratio. Better, but not good. All right. And then after Scott Hunter was benched, they started Kim McQuicken. And he ended off their season with a 1-2 record, 39.7% completion percentage, 450 yards, and a 2-10 TD interception ratio. Quarterback play was a problem for this team.
Then you look at their running backs too. They actually had 6 running backs on roster, I believe. Is this correct, Mason?
Yep,
that is correct. 6 running backs on roster. It's insane. But their lead running back, he was a rookie this year, I believe.
Yes, he was their number 9 overall pick.
Oh, yeah. You want to give him their name, Mason?
Oh, yeah. Name. Bubba Bean, baby.
Oh, yeah. I'll let you lay out his stats.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I did make this part. Yes. All right. Bubba Bean had 30.6 yards per game. Yikes. He had 428 yards on the season, 2 touchdowns, and 4 fumbles.
Horrible.
Awful. To be honest, this was only in 8 starts, but he was the leading guy. And when the leading guy's stats are this bad, you're not looking too good. Now, for their wide receiver 1, you look at his stats and you're like, man, this guy wasn't that bad. Maybe if his quarterbacks weren't so awful. Alfred Jenkins had 710 yards receiving, 6 touchdowns, and 17.3 yards per catch. This guy was a menace. He was good. Unfortunately, he didn't have good QBs. So
Yeah, it
whatever.
happens. And when you think about all these stats of these players, you might be thinking, "Wow, these guys suck." How did they do in game? So we have two of their worst losses here. The first one's an honorable mention, not because it was their biggest loss, but because the stats are honestly hilarious. They played the 49ers on October 23rd of 1976. They lost 0-15, so again, not crazy. Their rushing game, they put up 83 yards. They had 3 turnovers on offense, but the real kicker, the real reason why this game was so bad, is they had negative 39 passing yards. I don't know
How does the
how
team
you do
this?
that.
How does the team do that?
That's like Bears throwing screen passes all game and just losing yards. But even then, that's impressive to lose 39 passing, like negative in any offensive stat, like as a team.
Incredible.
But yeah, that was definitely their worst, saddest performance. But their worst performance was against the Rams on December 4th of 1976, where they lost 0-59. Awful. They passed for a total of 22 yards and ran for a total of 59 yards. Absolutely amazing offense display here. They had 4 total turnovers, even better. But then you look at what they gave up to this Rams team. They gave up 569 total yards, 369 coming from passing and 210 coming from the rush. And they only gave up 1 turnover. Or only had 1 turnover on defense. This is insane. This is like college numbers. You don't see 569 total yards very often anymore. Or like at all.
That's definitely wild.
It's insane. This team was bad. They turned something around the next year actually, because they went 7-7 the following year. So something might have clicked.
If there's not enough to be said, you look at this team's stats and you're like, how did this team win 4 games?
Yeah.
I think it's just a matter of the other teams somehow being worse. That Niners team that they put up negative 39 passing yards against, they won against them later in the season. They won against the Chicago Bears. Imagine that. Just wild. Absolutely wild.
So yeah, that is our team spotlight on the 1976 Atlanta Falcons. If you like this content, we'll have one of these out every Saturday, spotlighting a different team that we spun for in our weekly recaps. So look out for those if you want to know what teams you're looking forward to. The year is also always randomized. We spin a wheel for that as well. And just so it's nothing like, you can't be like, oh, well, the 2018 Kansas City Chiefs. No, so it's something interesting. No one knew about the 1976 Falcons for good reason. Now people might. We're educating the people.
Exactly.
But yeah, if you like this kind of content, like, subscribe, comment. We'll love you till the day you die if you do. Appreciate it a lot. And
be another video like this next week.
Oh yeah, and look out for our weekly recap coming out on Tuesday, and then our weekly preview coming out on Thursday. The next big videos, we'll have shorts coming out throughout the week with some game recaps, some takeaways. And yeah, if you like the content, if you like football, just subscribe. It's free, won't kill you. We appreciate it. And yeah, anything else you want to add, Mason?
No, I just think that we'll see you guys in the next one.
We sure will. Later.